Memory, it's a funny thing. It can be so vivid, so real, you can almost reach out and touch it. Other times, it's like a faded photograph, the colors muted, the details blurred, just a ghost of what once was. This photograph, this used to be my favorite. Chloe and I, on our wedding day. Look at us. Young, in love, full of naive optimism about the future. We had no idea what life had in store for us, the joys, the challenges, the heartbreaks. We certainly never imagined this. I can almost feel the weight of that day. The summer sun warm on my skin, the nervous excitement bubbling in my stomach, the scent of Chloe's perfume, gardenias and something sweet, I can't quite place it now. It was a perfect day, a perfect moment, captured in time. Or so I thought. Now, looking at this picture, all I feel is a deep, aching emptiness. It's like looking at a stranger's life, a life that no longer belongs to me. They say that trust is the foundation of any relationship, the bedrock upon which everything else is built. It's a fragile thing, trust. Like a delicate piece of glass, easily shattered, impossible to fully repair. And when that trust is broken by the person you love most, the person you've built a life with, the damage is immeasurable. It's not just a crack, it's a complete and utter shattering. I remember reading an article once, a study about the psychology of infidelity. It talked about the different types of affairs, the reasons people cheat, the devastating impact on the betrayed partner. It talked about how infidelity can trigger symptoms of PTSD, anxiety, depression. I remember reading those words, those clinical descriptions, and feeling a detached sense of sympathy for those who had experienced it. I never imagined I would become one of those statistics. I never thought it would happen to me. The betrayal, it's like a physical wound. A deep, throbbing pain in your chest that never seems to fully heal. It's the constant replay of memories, both real and imagined, that torture you in the quiet moments. It's the feeling of being constantly on edge, always wondering, always second-guessing. It changes the way you see everything. The world suddenly feels less safe, less predictable. You question your own judgment, your own instincts. You wonder how you could have been so blind, so naive. I remember the sound of Chloe's laughter, the way her eyes would light up when she was truly happy. I remember the feel of her hand in mine, the comfort of her embrace. These memories, once a source of joy, now haunt me like ghosts. They're a constant reminder of what I've lost, of what's been taken from me. It's like a phantom limb pain, a constant ache for something that's no longer there. And the person who inflicted this pain was someone I trusted. Someone I had welcomed into my life, into my family. Andy. The baseball coach. The man I trusted to guide and mentor my son. The man who sat at our dinner table, who shared our laughter, who became a part of our lives. The irony is almost unbearable. I trusted him with my son, and he betrayed me with my wife. This isn't just a story about a broken marriage. It's about broken trust, broken promises, a broken family. It's about the long, arduous journey of picking up the pieces and trying to rebuild a life that will never be the same. This is my story. It's not easy to tell, but I hope it can offer some comfort, some understanding, to anyone who has walked a similar path. It's a story about trust, betrayal, and the difficult path to healing. Before we dive deeper into this story today, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying this journey, and give this video thumbs up. Your support energized us for sharing these intimate stories, and remember to turn on notifications so you won't miss any future episodes. Let me paint you a picture. A Sunday morning, the kind where the sunlight seems to have a golden hue, filtering through the leaves of the oak tree outside our kitchen window. It cast long shadows across the worn wooden floor, highlighting the dust motes that danced in the air like tiny, shimmering fairies. The smell of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the sweet, buttery aroma of pancakes sizzling on the griddle. It was a symphony of familiar scents, the soundtrack of our mornings. I was at the stove, spatula in hand, a practiced flip sending a perfectly golden pancake soaring through the air. Ethan, my son, all elbows and knees and boundless energy, sat at the kitchen table, his eyes shining with excitement as he rattled on about the upcoming baseball game. He was 8 years old then, full of dreams and aspirations, his world still bright and untainted. He wore his favorite baseball cap, slightly askew, and clutched his well-worn glove like a prized possession. The sound of his voice, that high-pitched, enthusiastic chatter, used to fill me with such a deep sense of contentment. Chloe entered the kitchen, her footsteps light and familiar. The clink of her ceramic coffee mug against the countertop was a sound I had heard countless times, a comforting rhythm in our daily life. She was dressed casually, in jeans and a soft sweater, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. We exchanged a quick kiss, a peck on the cheek, a shared smile, a seemingly insignificant gesture, a routine exchange that now feels like a cruel mockery of the intimacy we once shared. It was a snapshot of everyday family life, a moment of ordinary happiness that I now cling to like a lifeline, a desperate attempt to recapture what I've lost. Our life wasn't perfect. I know that now more than ever. But it was ours. It was a life built on shared dreams, on quiet moments of connection, on the unwavering belief that we were in this together, for better or for worse. We had our routines, our little quirks, our inside jokes. We had built a life together, a family, a home filled with the echoes of laughter, the warmth of shared meals, the comforting presence of each other. I was a coach, not just for Ethan's team, but in life, I thought. Guiding him, mentoring him, instilling in him the values of hard work, dedication, and sportsmanship. I was a provider, working long hours at the office, pushing myself to climb the corporate ladder, all in the name of giving my family the best possible life. I was a husband, trying my best to be present, to be supportive, to be the partner Chloe needed, or so I believed. And above all, I was a father, loving my son with every fiber of my being, cherishing every moment, every milestone. I thought I knew my place in the world, in our family. I thought I had it all figured out. Imagine a baseball field on a warm summer afternoon. The vibrant green grass, meticulously lined in white, the dusty base paths worn smooth by countless cleats. The sun beats down, warming the air, carrying the scent of freshly cut grass and the faint aroma of hot dogs from the concession stand. The crack of the bat echoing across the field, the cheers of the parents in the stands, the excited shouts of the children running the bases. That was my second home, a place of joy, of camaraderie, of shared passion. I'm there, coaching Ethan's team, my voice hoarse from shouting instructions, my heart filled with pride as I watched the kids improve, grow, learn the game. Andy was there too. Andy. The baseball coach. A seemingly good guy. Enthusiastic, dedicated to the kids. Someone I trusted implicitly with my son. Someone I considered a friend, a fellow parent, a part of our community. Picture him now, shaking my hand after practice, a friendly but unremarkable interaction. He blends into the background of the scene, just another parent, just another coach. But little did I know, he was playing a much bigger role in my life, in our lives, than I could ever have imagined. He was always there, at every practice, every game. He seemed genuinely invested in the team, in the kids' development, in Ethan's progress. I was grateful for his help, for his dedication, for the positive influence he seemed to have on my son. I never suspected, not for a single moment, the devastating betrayal that was slowly unfolding, right under my nose. My workday was unremarkable, a blur of meetings, deadlines, and conference calls. A nondescript office, the hum of computers, the click of keyboards, the ringing of phones. Long hours, demanding deadlines, the constant pressure to perform, to succeed. But it was how I provided for my family. It was part of the routine, part of what made our life, ours. I'd come home tired, yes, but always looking forward to seeing Chloe and Ethan. To hear about their day, to share a meal, to just be together, to reconnect after a long day apart. Those moments, those simple, everyday moments, now feel like precious relics of a lost time, fragments of a life that has been irrevocably shattered. Memory, it's a cruel architect. It doesn't build a faithful replica of the past, but a distorted, subjective reconstruction, colored by our emotions, our biases, our present reality. It's like a house with secret rooms, hidden passages, and trapdoors that open unexpectedly, revealing long-forgotten details, painful truths we thought we had buried deep within the foundations. Looking back on those months, the months leading up to the shattering discovery, it's like wandering through that house, each room holding a different memory, each memory tinged with a growing sense of unease, a premonition of the storm that was gathering on the horizon. There were signs, of course. Subtle shifts, almost imperceptible at the time, like the delicate tremors that precede a major earthquake. Things I didn't want to see, whispers of doubt I subconsciously chose to ignore, because acknowledging them meant confronting the terrifying possibility that the ground beneath my feet was starting to give way, that the life I had so carefully constructed was about to crumble. Denial, they say, is a powerful anesthetic. It numbs you to the creeping pain, the subtle warnings, until the agony becomes too intense to bear, until the illusion shatters, leaving you exposed to the harsh light of reality. I recall a Tuesday evening. The exact date has faded, lost in the chaotic aftermath, but the feeling, the oppressive atmosphere, remains vivid, almost tangible. We were having dinner, a simple meal of pan-seared chicken, the skin crisp and golden brown, and roasted root vegetables, their earthy sweetness usually a comforting counterpoint to the savory chicken. The kitchen, usually a warm and inviting space, the heart of our home, filled with the comforting aromas of home cooking, felt sterile that night, the air thick with an unspoken tension, like a heavy blanket draped over the room. The scent of rosemary and thyme, usually so comforting, so evocative of warmth and family, seemed to hang heavy in the air, almost suffocating, adding to the sense of unease. Chloe sat across from me at the kitchen table, her posture stiff, her shoulders slightly hunched, her gaze fixed on her plate as if it held the secrets of the universe. The clinking of our forks against the stoneware plates, a sound that usually blended seamlessly into the background noise of our lives, echoed in the strained silence, each clink a tiny hammer blow against the fragile facade of our normalcy. The television, usually a comforting background hum, a familiar presence in our evenings, was off. The silence was deafening, amplifying the unease that settled in my stomach like a cold stone. I tried to initiate conversation, a simple, almost automatic attempt to bridge the growing divide, to break through the invisible wall that had sprung up between us. "How was your day?" I asked, my voice sounding strained and unnatural, even to my own ears. Chloe's response was brief, almost dismissive, her eyes never meeting mine, her gaze darting nervously around the room, as if she were searching for an escape route. "Fine," she mumbled, her fingers toying with the stem of her wine glass, tracing endless circles on the linen tablecloth. The light from the overhead fixture caught the crystal, creating fleeting flashes of light that danced across the room, but her eyes remained shadowed, unreadable, veiled by a secret I couldn't decipher. I remember the way she kept touching her phone, almost compulsively, as if it were a precious object she couldn't bear to be separated from, a lifeline to another world. She would glance at it surreptitiously, her eyes darting nervously around the room, as if she were afraid of being caught, as if she were guarding a dangerous secret. The faint blue glow of the screen illuminated her face in the dim light of the dining room, casting long, distorted shadows that masked her true expression, creating a mask I couldn't penetrate. I could almost feel the phantom vibrations of the phone in her pocket, a constant, silent pulse that seemed to separate us, a barrier I couldn't cross. Click subscribe and remember to turn on notifications so you won't miss any future episodes. Another memory surfaces, sharp and vivid, like a sudden flash of lightning in the darkness. It was one of Ethan's baseball games. The sun beat down mercilessly, the air thick with humidity, the kind that makes your skin feel sticky and your clothes cling uncomfortably to your body. The smell of sunscreen, a cloying mix of coconut and chemicals, mingled with the earthy scent of freshly cut grass, a nostalgic aroma that usually evoked feelings of summer, of childhood, of simpler times. The cheers of the parents in the stands, a cacophony of voices blending together, the sharp crack of the bat connecting with the ball, the excited shouts of the children running the bases, the familiar symphony of a summer afternoon, a scene I had witnessed countless times, now felt alien, distorted, tainted by the knowledge of what was to come. But Chloe seemed detached, her attention focused inward, her eyes constantly drifting away from the field, towards her phone, as if she were waiting for a message, a lifeline from another world. She held it in her hand, her thumb hovering nervously over the screen, as if she were poised to receive some vital communication, some secret message that would pull her away from the present moment. I remember the subtle shift in her posture, the way she turned her back slightly, creating a physical and emotional shield between herself and me, between herself and the truth that was slowly unraveling. The almost inaudible click of the phone locking and unlocking became a constant, maddening rhythm, a tiny, persistent alarm bell ringing in my ears, a harbinger of the devastation to come. Then there were the nights. The quiet moments in bed, when we used to talk, to share our thoughts and feelings, to reconnect after a long day apart, those moments of intimacy that had once been the cornerstone of our relationship, now felt like a distant memory. Now, the silence between us was deafening, a thick, suffocating blanket that stifled any attempt at communication, creating a vast, empty space between us. The soft rustle of the sheets as she turned away from me, the faint glow of her phone screen illuminating the darkness, the almost imperceptible sigh she would let out before turning over, these small sounds, these insignificant details, now haunt my memory, replaying endlessly in my mind like a broken record. The space between us in the bed, once a comforting closeness, a shared warmth, now felt like a vast, empty chasm, a desolate landscape I couldn't traverse, a physical manifestation of the growing emotional distance between us. The scent of her hair, usually a source of comfort, a familiar and beloved fragrance, now seemed foreign, almost unfamiliar, as if she were a stranger lying beside me. And then there was the bracelet. A simple white cord bracelet with a single black bead. I remember noticing it for the first time, a small, insignificant detail that now holds so much weight, so much symbolic meaning. It was just a bracelet. Or so I thought. Chloe told me it was a gift from her mother. A simple, sentimental trinket, a memento of their bond. I didn't think anything of it at the time, accepting her explanation without question. But later, much later, after the truth had come crashing down around me like a collapsing building, I saw a picture of Andy. He was wearing a bracelet too. Identical to Chloe's, but in reverse, a black cord with a single white bead. A mirror image. A silent, damning confirmation. It was a small detail, a seemingly insignificant coincidence. But in that moment, it became a symbol of betrayal, a constant reminder of what I had lost, of the web of lies that had been woven around me, a tangible representation of their secret connection. The discovery, it wasn't a dramatic confrontation, no shouting matches, no thrown objects. It was something far more insidious, far more devastating. It was a quiet click of a mouse, a chance encounter with a hidden file, a digital Pandora's box that unleashed a torrent of pain and confusion I never could have imagined. I remember the night vividly. It was late, well past midnight. Chloe was already asleep, her breathing deep and even. I was restless, unable to shake off a persistent feeling of unease that had been nagging at me for weeks. I went downstairs, hoping that the quiet solitude of the living room would offer some respite. I sat down at the computer, the cool metal of the keyboard a stark contrast to the warmth of the blanket I had wrapped around myself. I wasn't looking for anything, not consciously. I was just mindlessly browsing, checking emails, scrolling through social media, trying to distract myself from the unsettling feeling that something was amiss. I was the administrator on our family Google account, a simple convenience that now feels like a cruel twist of fate. I was checking the storage, something I did periodically to manage our shared files and photos. And that's when I saw it. A folder. simply labeled private. The name itself wasn't unusual. We all have things we prefer to keep to ourselves. But something about the way it was tucked away, almost hidden, sparked a flicker of suspicion within me, a nagging feeling that I shouldn't look, but couldn't resist the pull of the unknown. My heart pounded in my chest, a heavy, rhythmic thud that echoed in the silence of the house. My hand hovered over the mouse, the cursor blinking expectantly over the folder icon. I hesitated, a battle raging within me between curiosity and a deep-seated fear of what I might find. But the unease that had been plaguing me for weeks, the subtle shifts in Chloe's behavior, the growing distance between us, all coalesced in that moment, pushing me to take the plunge. With a trembling hand, I clicked. The folder opened, revealing a series of images. I remember the initial wave of confusion, a momentary disorientation as my mind struggled to process what I was seeing. Then, the realization hit me, a crushing weight that stole the air from my lungs and sent a chill down my spine. The photos, they were of Chloe and Andy. Intimate photos. Photos that spoke of a closeness, a familiarity, a passion that I hadn't shared with Chloe in what felt like an eternity. I remember the feeling of the blood draining from my face, the sudden dizziness that made me grip the edge of the desk for support. The room seemed to spin, the walls closing in around me, the silence amplifying the frantic beating of my heart. The photos themselves are now a blur in my memory, a fragmented montage of stolen moments, whispered secrets, and betrayals captured in pixels. I don't remember the specifics, the details are mercifully hazy, but the feeling, the gut-wrenching pain, the profound sense of betrayal, is etched into my soul. They confirmed my worst fears, the unspoken anxieties that had been gnawing at me for weeks. The world just stopped. Time seemed to freeze, the clock on the wall ticking silently, mocking the chaos that was unfolding within me. Everything I thought I knew, everything I had built, every belief I held about my life, my marriage, my family, shattered in an instant, like a glass vase dropped on a concrete floor. I felt numb, disoriented, adrift in a sea of confusion and disbelief. I remember sitting there for what felt like an eternity, staring blankly at the screen, the images burned into my retinas, the silence of the house pressing down on me like a physical weight. The only sound was the frantic beating of my own heart, a desperate drumbeat against the silence of my crumbling world. The confrontation, it wasn't a shouting match, not initially. It was a slow burn, a gradual escalation of tension that started with a single, trembling question. I remember walking into the bedroom, the photos still burned into my mind, the weight of them pressing down on me like a physical force. Chloe was sitting on the edge of the bed, her back to me, her shoulders slightly hunched. The room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of the bedside lamp, casting long, distorted shadows that danced across the walls. The air felt thick, heavy with unspoken words, with the weight of the secret that had finally been exposed. I remember the sound of my own voice, strained and unsteady, as I finally broke the silence. "Chloe," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She turned to face me, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and resignation. I didn't say anything else. I didn't need to. The look on my face, the photos clutched in my hand, spoke volumes. The initial moments were a blur. Chloe's denial, her attempts to explain it away, the stammered excuses that sounded hollow even to her own ears. I remember the feeling of disbelief washing over me, a desperate hope that this was all some terrible mistake, some cruel misunderstanding. But the photos were there, undeniable proof of the betrayal that had shattered my world. Then came the questions. The endless, agonizing questions that tore through me like shards of glass. Why? How long? With who? Each question a fresh wound, each answer a deeper cut. I remember Chloe's voice, trembling as she finally confessed. Andy's name, once a symbol of trust and friendship, now a bitter taste on my tongue. The baseball coach. The man I had trusted with my son, the man who had sat at our dinner table, the man who had become a part of our lives. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow, leaving me breathless and reeling. The conversation that followed was a blur of emotions. Hurt, anger, confusion, disbelief. Chloe's attempts to explain her actions, her words about feeling neglected, about seeking validation elsewhere, about a connection she felt she was missing in our marriage. I listened, my heart aching with a pain I had never known before. I wanted to scream, to shout, to unleash the torrent of anger that was building inside me. But I couldn't. I was numb, frozen in a state of shock, struggling to comprehend the reality of what was happening. I remember one specific exchange, a moment that is now etched into my memory with painful clarity. I asked her, my voice trembling with emotion, "How could you do this? How could you do this to us? To Ethan?" Chloe's response, her voice barely above a whisper, still echoes in my ears. I don't know," she said, tears streaming down her face. I wasn't happy." Those words, simple and devastating, hung in the air between us, a stark and painful truth that shattered the illusion of the life we had built together. The immediate aftermath, it was like being plunged into a cold, dark void. I remember leaving the bedroom, the photos still clutched in my hand, my mind reeling, my heart aching with a pain I had never imagined possible. The house felt empty, hollow, the familiar sounds of family life replaced by a deafening silence. I wandered through the rooms like a ghost, each object a reminder of what I had lost, of the life that had been irrevocably changed. I found myself in Ethan's room, the room filled with the remnants of his childhood, baseball trophies on the shelf, posters of his favorite players on the walls, his well-worn baseball glove lying on the floor. I picked it up, the worn leather soft beneath my fingertips, the scent of sweat and dirt a poignant reminder of the countless hours we had spent together on the field. The weight of it felt heavy in my hand, a symbol of the trust one had placed in Andy, a trust that had been so cruelly betrayed. I sat there in the darkness, the weight of the truth pressing down on me, the silence of the house amplifying the turmoil within me. The truth is a heavy burden to bear. I didn't know how to move forward. I didn't know who to trust anymore. The world I thought I knew had vanished, replaced by a landscape of pain, confusion, and betrayal. Click subscribe and remember to turn on notifications so you won't miss any future episodes. The impact, it's hard to quantify the devastation that infidelity leaves in its wake. It's not just about the physical act, the betrayal of intimacy. It's about something much deeper, something that cuts to the very core of your being. Infidelity isn't just about sex, it's about broken trust, shattered dreams, the deep emotional scars it leaves behind, scars that may never fully heal. It's about the erosion of everything you thought was solid, the dismantling of the life you had carefully constructed, brick by painstaking brick. I remember reading somewhere that the emotional impact of infidelity can be similar to experiencing grief. And that's exactly what it felt like. A profound sense of loss, a mourning for the relationship I thought I had, for the future we had planned together. There were days when the pain was so intense, so all-consuming, that I could barely function. Simple tasks, like getting out of bed in the morning or making breakfast for Ethan, felt like insurmountable challenges. The world seemed muted, gray, devoid of joy. The laughter of children playing in the park, the warmth of the sun on my skin, the beauty of a sunset, things that used to bring me pleasure now felt like cruel reminders of what I had lost. It's like looking at a cracked mirror. Each shard reflects a distorted image of yourself, of your relationship, of your life. You try to piece them back together, but the cracks are always there, a constant reminder of the damage that has been done. You see yourself differently, you see Chloe differently, you see the world differently. The trust is gone, shattered into a million pieces, and even if you manage to glue some of them back together, the cracks remain, visible reminders of the fragility of what you once had. There were times when I felt completely alone, adrift in a sea of confusion and despair. I didn't know who to turn to, who to confide in. The shame and embarrassment were overwhelming, a heavy weight that pressed down on me, making it difficult to breathe. I felt isolated, as if I were the only person in the world who had ever experienced this kind of betrayal. But slowly, gradually, I began to realize that I wasn't alone. I started researching, reading articles, and online forums, and discovered that infidelity is far more common than I had ever imagined. I found stories from other men, other women, who had experienced similar betrayals, similar heartaches. And in their stories, I found a glimmer of hope, a sense that healing was possible, that I wasn't destined to be consumed by this pain forever. Seeking support and healing, it's a long and difficult process, a journey that's different for everyone. It's about facing your emotions, acknowledging the pain, and allowing yourself to grieve the loss of the relationship you once had. It's about learning to trust again, not just others, but also yourself. It's about finding healthy ways to cope with the pain, to process the anger, the sadness, the confusion. For me, talking to a close friend helped. Just being able to voice my feelings, to share my burden with someone I trusted, provided a small measure of relief. I also considered therapy, a safe space to explore my emotions and begin the process of healing. I even looked into support groups, connecting with others who had experienced similar betrayals. Healing isn't linear. There are good days and bad days, moments of clarity and moments of despair. There are times when the pain feels as fresh as if it happened yesterday, and times when you feel a glimmer of hope, a sense that you're finally starting to move forward. But the most important thing I learned is that healing is possible. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes courage. But it's possible to rebuild your life, to find happiness again, to learn to trust again, even if it's just yourself. My story, it doesn't end with a dramatic flourish, a sudden resolution, or a neatly tied bow of closure. Life, I've come to learn, rarely offers such convenient endings. It continues, often messily, often painfully, a continuous process of navigating the aftermath, of picking up the pieces, of learning to live with the scars. The scars of betrayal, they don't just vanish overnight. They fade, perhaps, over time, but they leave their mark, a permanent reminder of the pain I endured, of the trust that was so violently broken. They're like phantom pains, a twinge that reminds you of a limb you've lost. I've learned a lot through this experience, more than I ever wanted to know about infidelity, about the insidious nature of betrayal, about the surprising resilience of the human spirit. I've spent countless hours researching, reading articles, poring over books, seeking answers, seeking solace, desperately trying to understand what happened, why it happened, how I could have been so blind. Experts talk about the stages of recovery after infidelity, about the importance of self-care, of setting boundaries, of seeking professional help. They talk about the emotional roller coaster, the waves of anger, sadness, denial, and acceptance. And while those clinical descriptions are undoubtedly helpful, I've discovered that healing is also a deeply personal journey, a unique and often messy process that each individual must navigate on their own terms, in their own time. There's no one-size-fits-all solution, no magic formula for overcoming the pain. Click subscribe and remember to turn on notifications so you won't miss any future episodes. There are still days when the memories ambush me, when the pain feels as raw and immediate as if it happened yesterday. A fleeting glimpse of a white bracelet with a black bead, a familiar scent that Chloe used to wear, a song that used to be ours, these seemingly insignificant triggers can send me spiraling back to those dark days, a wave of sadness, anger, and confusion washing over me. But those moments are becoming less frequent, less intense. The sharp edges of the pain are starting to soften, the raw wound beginning to heal, slowly but surely. It's like the tide receding after a storm, leaving behind the wreckage, but also revealing the solid ground beneath. I've had to redefine trust, to rebuild it from the ground up, not in the same way as before, but in a new, more cautious, more discerning form. I've learned to trust my own instincts, to listen to that inner voice that I had silenced for so long. I've learned to value my own worth, to recognize that I am deserving of love, respect, and honesty. I've learned that forgiveness, while not condoning what happened, is essential for moving forward, not for Chloe or Andy, but for myself. It's about releasing the anger, the resentment, the bitterness that was poisoning me from the inside out, preventing me from moving on with my life. Forgiveness is not about forgetting, it's about freeing yourself. I've also come to understand the profound importance of self-care, of prioritizing my own well-being, of taking care of my physical and emotional health. I've found solace in simple things, spending time with Ethan, coaching his baseball team, watching him grow into a strong, resilient young man. He's been my rock through all of this, a constant source of love, laughter, and unwavering support. He's the reason I get up in the morning, the reason I keep pushing forward, even when the weight of the past threatens to pull me down. And perhaps the most important lesson I've learned is that even in the darkest moments, when you feel like you're lost in a bottomless pit of despair, there is always a glimmer of hope. There is an incredible strength within each of us, a capacity to heal, to overcome adversity, to find happiness again, even after experiencing the most profound of betrayals. There is the possibility of building a new life, a life that may be drastically different from the one you had imagined, but a life that can still be full of joy, of love, of meaning, a life that is truly your own. My story is still unfolding. The journey of healing is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be setbacks, there will be moments of doubt, but I'm moving forward, one step at a time, carrying the lessons I've learned, the scars I've acquired, but also carrying a renewed sense of hope, a steadfast belief in the possibility of a brighter future. If you're going through something similar, if you've experienced the devastating pain of infidelity or betrayal, please know, from the depths of my own experience, that you're not alone. There are countless others who have walked this difficult path, and there is support available. There are resources, people who understand what you're going through, people who can offer guidance, empathy, and a safe space to heal. I'll include some helpful links in the description below, to support groups, therapy resources, online forums, and other valuable information. Please, don't suffer in silence. Don't let shame or embarrassment prevent you from seeking help. Healing is possible. You are not defined by what happened to you. You are stronger than you think.